doing it, but you know you're not okay with this thing happening. All right. Level 3 actions, moderate levels of influence. This is shit that gets people fired or killed.
Ooh.
Right? This is, oh, I understand you're my infrastructure, my first response influence, right? I would like the firefighters not just go put out a fire, not just do a thing. I need the firefighters to catastrophically run their ambulance or their fire truck through this bar. Right? Somebody's getting fired. Right? What is going to happen? You got that kind of pull. All right? We understand where the delineation between 1 and 3 happens?
Yep.
So this is like fist glove stuff.
Yeah. You don't have to. Now, to be honest, when you set up your actions, you don't have to remember the difference. Because I would. Right? You're like, I have first response 3. I would like these 3 things to happen, you know. And I will go, okay, this is a level 1 action, this is a level 2 action, this is a level 3. It's not that big a deal. Some people manage their actions very well, and they need to know exactly what piece is going to be.
Yep.
Ship it.
So if I have first response 3, I can do 3 level 3 actions.
Correct.
That's cool.
Correct. All right. Level 4, what we call advance the narrative. This is the influence level you have to protect against the masquerade. This is the influence level you have to further the plot in a lot of cases. There will be plot items that you may discover through the game that require a certain level of influence action to take place. That action will always be level 4. Right? And it may require level 4 in different spheres.
We know that?
Yeah.
Like we're doing
For sure. If that's the prerequisite. Similar to how Werewolf quests, in Werewolf they had quests and you knew the prerequisites before you engaged. When those plots are around, you'll say, Alex will tell you, this requires level 4 action in culture. Right?
So the flip side, if we're not told, hey, there's something needing level 4 floating around out there, should we assume there isn't one of those out there?
No.
Okay.
It just means somebody else has it.
It just means it hasn't come up to you yet.
Okay.
All right. I want to protect the masquerade, influence level 4. Sometimes you might need more than 1 action, as we discussed, blocks are a thing. Right? If you're really into protecting the masquerade, like good vampires, that's what you should do. All right, so we'll talk about level 5. Level 5 is the big influence. It doesn't all. There's only 2 level 5 owners in every sphere, so that's 10 total people, or 10 total level 5 influences in the game. Some people can own multiples of them. Those people are your kingpins. These are your masterminds. If you use level 5 influence, things happen. Right? You want to do a thing that is normally unheard of. You want to decide randomly that one of these gangs, they're not here anymore. Have them all killed. Okay, that's a thing that can happen in certain levels of influence. You're like, PTs has done pissed you off. I shouldn't talk bad about PTs. Now we're in one. PTs now. PTs that pissed you off. You're like, I use infrastructure 5 and I shut down all PTs on contract violations. Whatever happens.
Great D.
Smoke. All right, everybody with gossip is going to see it and go, oh, damn, that was rough. But it's a thing that happens. You can do that. That's the level of sweeping action that takes place across the city. Those require level 5s. Other than that, I'm sorry?
Oops, the Super Bowl is canceled.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Whoa!
You can oops cancel the Super Bowl.
Shut that shit
Who's
down.
got a level 5 to make a team win?
The big game.
My Niners are playing. Go ahead.
Somebody get rid of Formula 1 while you're at it.
All right, so we've talked about general actions. We've talked a bit about meta actions. All right, so that's really all there is to it in summation. Right? You have all of your influence comes to me, and then I put it in the spreadsheet, and then I stare at it. It takes about 9 hours, by the way, to do influence for you monsters.
Yeah.
And that's assuming.
Happy birthday.
And that's assuming everything gets done easy peasy. A lot of times, what ends up taking more time is if emails are crafted incorrectly, and then I have to ask you questions because everyone is waiting on your influence action to resolve for their gossip. So I'm waiting on you, everybody's waiting on you. That being said, if influences don't come out till Saturday morning, it's going to be okay.
I bet you say.
Right. All right. So, influence emails, really easy. When you do influence actions, your influence email goes to doslark.com or gmail.com. You're like, title, my character name, influences, game number. Right? Easy title. Then, in the body, it should say, hey Neil, what's up? You're dope. And I agree.
All right.
Thank you for that. Secondly, you need to list all of the 5 spheres of influence and how much you have. So I can adjust my little spreadsheet, right? Like the little game monkey. Then, after that, we'll go through and one by one, list all the things you're doing. All right, I have 3 actions here. I do this thing, this thing, this thing. Satir is boosting me 3 actions in this category. I will also use these actions. If Zash has level 5 first response, and I know, and Satira has decided that she's going to help Zash's influence. They're going to add their 3 levels of first response to yours, right? You don't have level 8 first response. You have 8 actions you can spend as you please up to your level, which is 5. So if you wanted to do 8 level 5 first response actions, like the psychopath, you can.
Right out the city.
You're like, that's it.
Yeah.
You fucking can't shit done. All these ambulances, they're fired.
Did you read my influences before I came here?
You could wipe
I
out the city with
apologize.
that.
Pretty well shut down. Fucking
All
business, the
right,
agent.
so
Gridlock, yeah.
How
Fuck
often do
it.
influence actions refresh?
after every game.
Every game?
Yep.
Now, there are a few outliers. There is a merit that gives you an additional influence action,
Master of Puppets.
right? And it gives you an additional influence action after influences have been processed. It does not overcome blocks, but it technically is invisible to gossip. So that's a thing that exists. There are not a lot of influence merits. Monopoly had to go.
Bastards.
It just didn't make any sense in the system. A couple others down. Does anybody have any questions about influence?
Other backgrounds, fame, resources, how do those interact with influences?
If you have, there are influence actions that say, I'm doing a thing. Influence is your masterminding people. You are the puppeteer, you are Geppetto, right? The mortals dance at your whim. That's what influence represents. So if you want to do a thing, let's say JJ has decided he's shutting down all of the Build-A-Bears because fuck Mario. And he's going to open up his new competition,
Sorry, Mario.
Build a Weasel. Right? And he's got it. I'm like, okay, that's great. You have the influence actions. You set up the corporation. You set up the company. You sign the leases. You take over all the leases for Build-A-Bear. It's going to require money to grease the wheels. And I'll say, sounds great. You're going to have to use resources to complete all of these actions. All right. Some of you are familiar with that from the emails that we've had. Allies, those things, they don't come into play. Influence action is you controlling the mortals. All right.
So if somebody boosting, all I need to do is say, I'm taking the boost action with this many of my actions, and I'm providing them to this person. That's all I need to put in.
Yes.
And then the other person just says, I'm taking additional actions based off of.
Right. This is my boost from so and so. I'm going to use these actions.
So both people should list player name, character name.
Character name really is enough. Okay.
So even if you didn't use any influence actions for your own character, if you're boosting someone, they still need to send you an email.
Yes. All right. Any other questions? Mitch?
So when things are getting axed, Does it go bottom to top on the list that you get sent? Is it random?
When things get axed,
Yeah, when you have influence actions that get blocked or
blocks
you
are
get
different. But if you get attacked, it's gonna randomly chop out 3 influence.
Okay, so
If
it's
you're
random.
attacked.
It's not the.
Right.
It's not in order
Right.
of the ones you think are most important.
No.
Okay.
No. Blocks are different. Blocks are specific actions that you must overcome. Okay. Okay.
What concerns scouting actions? Since
Scouting actions are not an influence action.
Well, no, it's important because like you said, so colors 5 can help with those things, right?
Uh huh.
So if I want to investigate, Frankie and Warburton, is it 10 actions? I can discount 5, or is it discount? I can discount one for free.
If you have context 5, and
Yeah.
and you see there, you can't investigate Warburton and Frankie.
Okay.
You can investigate gossip that you see,
Yeah. Okay.
and then list in the downtime, copy and paste the piece of gossip you want. Because Alex has no fucking clue. All right, but Neil knows because it's in the spreadsheet what all of these things say.
That's fine. I'm not supposed to be able to say, investigate this action. Can I investigate them both at a discount each, or is it 10
Yeah.
actions minus 5?
No, you can to do an investigation action. If you have 5 levels of context, you're simply notifying.
Yeah, cool.
So can I, in the same downtime cycle, for free, with my context 5, investigate who shut down Build-A-Bear and who made all of the ambulances go psycho at the same time for free?
You can scout both of those gossips that you see.
Okay.
All right. Investigating the downtimes is a different word. It's a keyword thing. Investigate means
Okay.
I want Alex to tell me about things.
So I can scout Build-A-Bear and I
You can scout any
ambulances
gossip action you want to attack.
no cost.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
Rich.
You were
What
there.
level
You
of
were there.
specificity do you need for block actions?
Block actions are very general. These are actions that affect this thing.
So blood banks is enough.
Blood banks is enough.
What would
Blood
be,
banks.
What
Gang.
would be too vague?
Too vague.
I block all police responses.
All first
Yeah.
responders.
I block all 911 calls. I block all casinos. Right? That's too general. Casinos are casinos are too big. Blood banks are small. What's that?
Would it be more specific to say I block all MGM casinos?
Sure.
MGM always knows, just in
But
case
wait.
anybody didn't know.
But isn't that too vague? Because if you're blocking all MGM casinos, what are you blocking?
You're
Are you blocking all interactions with MGM
Yeah,
casinos?
you're
or Are
blocking-
you blocking all MGM business? I mean,
No, you're not doing anything to the MGM business. You're blocking vampires' ability to interact with it. All right, that's what blocks do.
Not the prosecutors.
No, you can only block in the sphere.
Okay.
So if you have influence, or if you have 2 levels of influence in every category, and you want to do 5 level 1 blocks in each sphere of a thing, you can do that.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody else have any other questions?
So you said that in some cases resources might come in.
Yeah, that's only in the resolution of the actions, not in the resolution of the influence.
But for that, how does the resource spend, like if I have resources,
Uh-huh.
how does that spend for to use 3 resources again? It's like, I remember there being something about.
There is a theoretical limit to resources based on its level, and we'll tell you when that level hits. You're like, oh, you used. All right, let's just
There's also a schedule in the
random
book.
examples. I send in an influence action, blah blah blah. I want to do this thing, right? We want to block all the things. We want to build all the things. I say it's going to take you a resources 4 action to grease the wheels, or resources 4 to spend, and then you pave the way through all the things you want. You're like, groovy, I do that. I'm like, sold. Now in your downtime actions, you also bought 25 cars and 65 guns. You paid for a bunch of things and shit.
Matrix is looking for the person that ordered cheesesteak and egg rolls.
That's me. I own both. She can sit at the table with Alex. Anyway, at some point, Alex will say, "You have too many. Your resources doesn't cover this. So these things are good. These things are not. Right? You can choose to overtax your resources, and you will be punished for that accordingly. All right." can.
Like last downtime cycle, I bought a VW bus, but I only have one resource, so I just bought the bus, and I'm going to do the cosmetic stuff later.
Yeah.
Because I knew I didn't have enough.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Right.
So you scout in action and you get the scout and you attack. Do you know who you attack, or is it just you attack and they lose it?
Yeah. You attack the action, the attack will be successful or unsuccessful, and they will be penalized accordingly. But you will never know who they are until they bitch about it. Right? You're like, oh, my influences was attacked by everybody. Damn it, Jake, did you see the shit that happened to me? And everybody's like, yeah, I saw that shit happen.
Would it be fair to say that you never actually enter your sphere of influence as your character?
Correct.
You're just controlling what goes on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're the mastermind. You're the puppet master. You are the best at what you do here. Right? Under no circumstances do the stupid mortals connect to the fangs in the back.
Okay.
I have a question, not specifically regarding influences, but about contacts, the new user contacts, and whether or not there's any way to find out who did what.
No.
I mean,
Yes and
can
no.
you say that for the?
Using contacts and the investigation action for downtimes, which is separate from scouting. We talked about scouting as part of attacks. Investigating a downtime. I want to know what the deal is with Build-A-Bear. Right? You're like, okay, Alex says your contacts tell you this shit. Build-A-Bear was doing fine, and all of a sudden all its finances were frozen by the police, and all of their leases were taken, and it's not the full definition of what happened, and under zero chances does it ever connect to a person.
Okay.
But you can find out information with the investigation down.
And that uses contacts?
Technically, it uses contacts.
Okay.
I have a question I remember. So you said that you could use level 4 for like blocking the or protecting the masquerade. Is that something you can do preemptively if you have level 4?
If you wanted to do some shit and knew it was going to be some shit, you're like, I need Cirque du Soleil to run down the streets, like slicing people's throats and screaming, long live the Sabbat, praise King. Can happen. In the same action, you can also protect that with level 4 of that influence. You're like, hey, this thing happens. Nobody reports it. They're on some fentanyl.
Did this happen on New Year's Eve?
Another action to protect.
Oh no, it's a different action.
Okay, so it would be 2 actions for that scenario. So
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I so want to see that happen now.
Let's say that I didn't necessarily want to stalk someone or attack someone for doing something, but I wanted to find out who it was. Is it possible with the use of downtimes to track it back to a person?
No. No. You can investigate the downtime and learn about it, but after that, you're on your own.
So you have to make your own connection.
Who is doing a thing? Like, you can investigate the action with downtimes using your contacts. You can't, not to scout it, to investigate. To learn about the Build-A-Bear incident and everything involved in it, I investigate with my contacts. My contacts, which are relevant to the Build-A-Bear incident. So they find out a thing. They don't tell me what vampire was in charge.
So the only way to find...
No, that's scouting. It's a different action.
Scouting would eventually, right?
But now it still doesn't tell me who it was.
Scouting still doesn't tell you who it was, but you can smash the influence of that person. Yes.
So the only way you can find out who did something is through ICRP?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. That was my
When
next
you
question.
attack someone successfully,
How do you find out?
the level of attack, does it eliminate one of those
Unless they talk.
individual's actions for the
Yes.
given cycle?
Yes.
It doesn't, it's not.
Not standing forward.
It's not a month.
All right. What's that?
Stupid way of asking this. Do attacks stack?
Yeah. Yes. If Mario and Rich decide they're tired of my shit and they've scouted my influence and attack it, right? Any number of attacks that overwhelm my defense actions are going to penalize my actions. I will lose actions.
What happens when you run out of actions?
You have no actions.
It doesn't carry over to downtimes?
It does not.
And then what?
Indirect attacks per student. Hold on.
Okay, so everybody, we've all made the joke of you can, the only way to get a level 5 now, because if I recall, the post said that all level 5s have been bought. So the only way to do it would be to kill somebody with a level 5, but we cannot, unless they reveal themselves, find out who those people are.
Right.
But then, when we do kill somebody with a level 5, do we know? Like, how do we know? Like, we'll stack them in a post or something?
When a level 5 influence becomes available, we will announce it at the end of the game. The next game.
Oh, next piece spend time.
So everybody has a fair option to buy it with their XP.
And that's when people are on their phone submitting their DTs right then.
So for attacking and defending,
Uh-huh.
and say someone has 4 dots of influence and 2 people are attacking that.
Oh, I see you.
Oh, guys.
2 people are attacking that action, and one of them has a 3 and one of them has a 2.
Uh-huh.
And then how does that resolve? Because there's 5 total dots attacking, but there's split. It's lower.
We don't attack levels anymore. We only attack actions. It's the economy of actions. So you have a level 3 attack and a level 2 attack coming on somebody who has 5 actions, right? And the level 3 attack resolves without them having a defense. They lose 3 actions, right? The following level 2 action takes the remaining 2 actions.
Okay. So how would it?
Then if they have 1 defense, the level 3 only hits them for 2, and the level 2 only hits them for 1.
Okay.
And then they still have 2 actions. They'll still have an action.
So it's a 1-to-1 ratio.
Can you hide actions from hitting the gossip level?
No. Technically, no.
But you can block gossip.
You can.
I missed the mention of how to find out who did it.
You can't.
Cannot. At all.
Unless they talk about it.
That is role play left in game.
Yeah.
And someone asked me, they're like, how do I find out who did this thing? I was like, Dominate's very popular. Right. See the Malkavian Elder, he's got your answers.
We'll dominate for food.
For the case of attacking it, does the boost get can work with that? Like if 2 people are attacking it, they're like joining forces to do it?
Boost is all in the economy of actions. You boost, you give your actions to someone else to do with it whatever they want.
So if
If they decide to attack with it, yes.
So like, if the person with the 2 actions gave their 2 to the person with 3 actions, that would be 4 actions instead of 3 actions. In our previous.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? Do we have a handle on it?
Yes. It's a
Does
loose
this same thing, not finding out who did what, apply to like historical things that happened? If you're trying to look into like backstory of what's happening.
NPC stuff?
Like the previous
Yeah,
domain.
NPC stuff.
Investigation downtimes work just fine
And
for
research.
NPC stuff.
What was the question?
How does investigating past actions work when you're talking about historical NPCs? It's not, you can't scout them because you don't see the gossip, right? But you can investigate actions. You're like, hey, I want to investigate the last, 10 years ago, this thing happened at the estate. And I would like to know what these security companies were doing at that time. If they were, I'll figure out if they were involved. And the answer is predominantly no, they're not involved, but yes, that is a thing you can do. Any other questions? All right, yes,
This one, does computer downtime still count as downtime action?
yes.
Ah, yes.
What was the question?
Computer actions, not influence related. Computer actions give you the option to do a couple of different things. You can take a general downtime action, you can scout someone else's downtime, see what they do, one of their actions, or you can eliminate one of somebody's downtime actions. All 3 actions are viable. All 3 actions have a chance of alerting the Second Inquisition and burning down your haven.
Is there another way to do any of those 3 actions outside of computers?
Scout, no.
No.
You can take general actions with science, depending on your science specialization.
So the only downtime boost that requires it to be specific are the science ones?
Yes.
Okay.
Homunculus does not.
You read the question. You know,
What's that?
question?
Sharon asked about science being specific if other things that boosted downtimes were also specific. The answer is no.
Do retainers and pools get their own? Do retainers and pools get their own downtime action? Or is it-
Not anymore. We got rid of that due to abuse.
Whether
Yeah,
it's retainers.
that was never in the book.
It was an optional rule in the book, and we tried it, and it was awful. and we had the website to do our downtime actions for us half the time.
And it was so awful.
It was beyond awful. I can't stress to you how much somebody can have 50
I have five dot retainers.
I know.
They had
David
51
Reed's
dot
here, so-
retainers, could take 1,000 actions. It was obnoxious. All of them were irritating. They're like, all right, these are all Neil's downtime actions. I was like, oh, why? Anyhow, anybody have any other questions about influence? Or do we got it? We got a lock on influence. We understand it now.
I think so.
We're like, blocks take 2 actions. Attacks require scouting. Defense works versus all attacks. General actions are general actions. You can do a thing. All right, so we're gonna take all the influence stuff after Stu's question.
Yeah, I have one more question. Can
Yeah.
you find, is there a way to dig into who did blocks?
No. Blocks do not appear in the gossip tab. All right, so we'll take all the influence, we'll shelve it for a second, we'll talk about goals. People have goals, and they have things that they want to do. We've talked about it a bunch of times with different groups of people. If you want to do a thing, let us know. You say, hey, I have this goal, it's to do this thing, take control of this thing, I want to buy this, I want to own this, I want to be this person. Cool. You tell me what you want to accomplish. Alex and I will try to construct a path for you.
Oh, good. Cool.
It will not be easy. It will always be bullshit. But it will be viable. So if I chart a course for you, you can deviate from the charted course, but it's easier to stay on it, right? We understand that. Similar to vampire or to werewolf quests, same thing. Because you're the werewolf player. Right? Technically so is Shivan, but it's okay. Thank you. All right, so in Werewolf, there was a mechanical quest which was very good. Everything else in the book was mid, right? Werewolf quest said, you come to the storyteller and you say, I want to do this thing. I want to own this building. I want to be this person. I want to do this stuff. And we say, cool. If you can accumulate these things, run these achievements, gather this stuff, come to me, right? So I'm saying you need to have resources for, you need influence for in culture, you need this thing, you need to have 5 kindred with no less than 2 status to back you. Let me know when you have all that, and then I'll run this scene and we'll do the thing for you, right? Sometimes it'll take, you also need 45 downtime actions. Go recruit some bitches, you know what I'm saying? But there will be things, you can construct these goals, and Alex and I can put it together with the rest of the staff and then chart you a course. And then you can run with it, right? You're like, hey, instead of this thing, I'm gonna do this other thing. And how's that work for you? And I was like, hey man, works for me. Or Alex was like, doesn't happen. It's not good enough, right? But that's how to accomplish goals in a world so difficult, right? Because we want to see you accomplish goals and do things and be cool, right? That's what we like to do. Alex is like, we also want to see you kill each other. Okay. So that's what I like to do.
It'll happen.
I know. Constructing these goals is good for everybody to do your thing, right? You have a character idea, you have a design, you're like, I want to be the king of the people that wear purple. You're like, that's real strange, but all right, we'll work with it. All right. You're like, Mario wants to own a Build-A-Bear empire, right? And I think there are not enough Build-A-Bears in strip malls. They exist in big malls, but there's not enough Build-A-Bears in strip malls. So let's get to that. I say, okay, Mario, you're going to have a certain amount of resource to do this. This is going to require a certain amount of infrastructure to get all of these things accomplished. Not a lot, just some. But you definitely require a certain amount of other things. Culture. If you want Build-A-Bear to be successful, you have to infect the culture with the need for fucking Build-A-Bear. And I need you to get 45 downtimes worth of people that will help you, or you can do it yourself like a G is going to take a minute. Right? You're like, oh, well, I want Victoria to help me. She's the ace. She's got this shit handled. She's got a squad of motherfuckers waiting to help. It's cool. You do that, and she's like, I want to magically enchant all these Build-A-Bears to infect people with my addictive blood. We're like, strange, but I'm with you. Mario, it's gonna be a dark time.
I think there's not enough.
The Quintessence had a lot to say about your innocence.
I think there's not enough Build-A-Bears in kiosks in strip clubs.
There are not enough Build-A-Bear kiosks in strip clubs. Like robotic pizza, Mario's building stripper bears. I'm with it. Okay, so that's our concept of goals in how the storytellers can help you come to terms with those neat things you want to do. You're like, I want to hold gathering at this strip club. What do I need? It's a common question I get. I was like, you need these things. Do this, do this. If you want to make it masquerade safe, optional. You need this, which is a level 4 influence of this type or that type or any type. And then once these things go through, great. If your things get blocked, awkward.
So we could technically want to do something and have, say, someone else protected.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the beauty of being vampires. You guys make friends real easy. Enemies forever.
I trust everyone.
But if you feel like you've been chasing a certain plot for like potentially 5 to 6 games, not calling out any particular plot lines, and you feel like you've talked to everybody, you've influenced your downtime, and you feel like you're hitting it against the wall, is that also something that can come to the storyteller?
Absolutely. If you have slammed your nose in the book multiple times and you can come up with nothing, you're like, I don't understand where this Build-A-Bear magic necklace shit came from, right? This is that bullshit. And I'll say, hey Mario, you don't have the occult skill to understand what's happening here. And he's like, thanks.
Gotta find a fucking Tremere.
Thanks. And then he turns and looks to the nearest Tremere with angry fists and eyes. He's like, you work for me. Right? And then
reasonable rates.
Reasonable rates. Right? It only costs your soul. Or Liberace for that matter. Alright. Anyone have any other questions? Alright, so we talked about influence, we talked about goals. Now we're going to open up the table. Alex! We're going to open up the table for questions and answers. We're going to hold on.
You're doing so well.
Make a friend, hold on. All right, we've talked about influences. Alex, everybody. We talked about influences. We talked about goals, how to come to the storytellers and ask how do I achieve these goals, and the storytellers will chart a course for you. Okay. And now we're going to open up the questions and answers very quickly. Unless you have anything else you want to talk about?
Behold, I'm here.
All right. So if you have questions about stuff or plot that just makes sense to you, just let us know. And Alex is here. If you need to talk to Alex in private about the shady you guys are doing.
No, just say it out loud.
He's
We'll
also
put it on whisper. We'll put it on whisper.
We told me we'll put it in a downtime action.
All right.
What is your preferred method of communication if it's not at game? Do you prefer us to email? Do you prefer us to just message?
My preference is gilded letter. However, I recognize that we live in a modern era, so just hit me up on Facebook, or if you have an in-depth question, I would recommend Gmail to send it to the DoS LARP, not because, kind of because it's cluttered on Facebook, but it's a record kept in the DoS mail. So if it's a complicated question, put that there, because then we can refer to it later if a similar situation develops, anything interesting kind of happens.
Feel free to take a video of yourself asking the question and attach it.
Feel free. Yeah.
Do you use the Discord?
What a good way to
Facebook sucks.
Yeah, we can't. I am on. I live on Discord, not in the vampire space. I do Midjourney, so I'm always in there. Okay, so
If you message on Discord, everybody's familiar with our Discord.
I
The
posted.
link is
Yes.
expired. Every
No,
time I go to
I posted a new
Because it
one.
has an expiration of 7 days.
It's in the body of the email.
Just message
changed
me
it.
or Alex or Keelan or somebody or Mario. Just message us. We'll send you a Discord.
I changed it yesterday.
so the other question.
All right.
Oh,
How can we as players help support you guys as storytellers, either in communication or collaboration? What makes things easier for you guys? Maybe especially like if we're going to collaborate in downtimes, does it make sense to put it on one simple sheet? Like how can we help you guys?
Yes.
No,
Mark downtimes.
the most important thing players can do when sending email correspondence is to label it correctly. Right? Let us know who it's coming from.
Yes.
And then if you want to make a note that says, I am attempting to work in collaboration with this person on this thing, name your project,
Yes.
right?
Also-
Just easily searchable in Google.
Also, this question is fantastic because I was going to announce this thing on Facebook later. But we're entering a new phase of the game, a more complex phase of the game. Things are becoming much more in your guys' hands, right? Oh yeah, it's starting. So as we do that though, if you guys want to do something that you think will be an opposed challenge, please include your attributes and skills for that thing. So let's say that George wants to create a replica of the Mona Lisa so he can sell it. Okay, very shady business. But what we would do is we would take his mental trait and his crafts, painting, which he of course has. We would say, all right, we're gonna do a test now for George. All right, the test is, I don't know, tied. Difficulty is 13. Does George have higher mental and crafts than 13 or equal or whatever? Then we could process the DT without ever talking to you guys. We're just going to auto run the retest if there is a need for one because we're in downtime. It's not really important. Willpower refreshes at the beginning of the game. So yes, including your stats, if you're doing an action that you think will be difficult, is a way you can help us a lot. Let's go to Karen.
Are the tests done by Autobot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Decepticon, technically, yeah. So Tyra.
Do you care when we are attaching our sheet, whether it's for something like that or for buying stuff? Do you care whether it's a link or whether it's
I don't.
attached?
Either way is good.
Okay.
I have another question. When we're doing an action that would require specific skills or potentially lores or whatever, you want us to spell that out in the downtime so you don't have to search the sheet?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's say Karen is obsessed. And this is, I can verify this is actually true. Karen is obsessed with this movie. Every downtime she talks about them. She asks me for my thoughts on them. She asked me if we could run a poll in DoS about whether you guys like them or not. Okay. So she has Salubri lore naturally, and she says, I would like you to tell me about the coolest Salubri there is. A natural hobby for this character. Okay. She would say, here's I have Salubri lore. My mental is this, my lore is this. So my mental is 7, my lore is 3. Okay, you get the story about this 4th gen, 5th gen, 8th gen Salubri guy if you win. If you don't, you get nothing. Or even worse, a lie.
Valen finds nothing. I got one of those.
Sending in your stats, a lot of people forget your focus, your attribute focus.
Oh, yeah.
Most mundane challenges.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a lore check and you have
And your
focus, mention that.
library as a haven trait also will apply to certain things. Certain benefits you guys have skill-wise.
Are there skills that help or hinder feeding?
So this is a complicated question. If you encounter negative feeding cards, some of the negative feeding cards might have special caveats. And those are in a case-by-case basis, where you'll see like, okay, you guys went to feed a game. Unfortunately, Victoria was jumped by a bunch of Malkavians. Malkavian anarchs have come, they've made her look crazy. This is drama. Unless, of course,
Subterfuge 3. You have Subterfuge 3.
and
Now,
if she has Subterfuge 3.
you guys haven't encountered this yet because I don't know if you've noticed, but we have been rolling out some of the new things every game as a focus. So we want you guys, I know it sounds terrible, we want you to experience the suffering of unaugmented cards so you can say, oh, worst case scenario, this kind of stuff is what happens if I don't have a choice or I don't have a skill choice in this feeding scene. Okay? But yes, there will in the future be cards that let you have certain benefits to getting away or feeding.
Okay, so my question.
Hold on. We gotta have another round. If anybody have a question?
It was the same question.
Okay.
My question was more specific to downtimes.
Okay, so I'll tell you another secret. The feeding deck is what we're using in downtime.
Okay, so not yet.
Not yet,
Okay.
but in the future.
So if we got a clip at the end of the last game, we have to resolve it before next game?
Which one? I'm sorry.
If we got like a feeding clip thingy during
A penance?
Yeah, last game, we have to resolve that before the next game.
No, this will be, so if you have a hunger and you feed normally in downtime, you show up with full blood next game. And if you don't, so let's say you have one hunger, but you don't do any feeding, you'll have 3 hunger next game.
Hunger is your friend.
Hunger is your friend.
All right. Do not be afraid of hunger. Hunger can actually hurt you.
Well, that's not necessarily true.
Hunger on its own can hurt you.
That's true. However, remember, hunger does add to the beast bowl when we do a frenzy check. So.
But if you guys are walking the straight and narrow and nobody's got penance, frenzy's not really a problem, right? We're all highly moral people. No penance around here.
Is there any way in influence actions or downtime to know that you're chasing a red herring? Say for a group of people that have gotten a lot of no's on things we've looked into and we're not sure whether there's nothing there or we just haven't asked the question right.
I would say that multiple no's usually means you're on the wrong track. Unless the no's, I think you have to be realistic with what you're doing. If you are like, I'm using Animal Ken to have an alligator, go to the bank, and then at the bank it's gonna try to blend in and listen in on the bank teller when it gets there. Like, bro, come on. Like, if that doesn't work, that's like just not gonna work. Okay?
What if I put a little Loki hat on?
This is Vegas, everything works.
Right. So if that doesn't work, that's not gonna work. But you know, it doesn't mean the bank guy can't be listened in on necessarily. But I think there is a situation where we are searching for things. And I'm going to tell you something. You guys, you're not going to believe me about this, but vampires are fucking liars.
What?
This is shocking.
No way.
This is shocking. Some of you guys are going to hear things in game that just aren't true. And in fact, sometimes you guys are going to hear things that are just made up. Just completely made up. But us as staff, it is our duty not to give that away necessarily. So I think that you could say, if you fail a test, we're going to let you know that you failed the test. If you are digging into a thing, don't get notified that you failed the test. And you keep getting negative results when you look into it reasonably with academics, with lore, with like an investigation action. I think at some point you can cross off lists saying like, all right, somebody bullshit me about this whole thing. I've seen your downtimes. Someone is a real Mark Twain guy out there telling you guys all kinds of stuff. I get it. Karen.
Is it safe to say that we will not receive incorrect information directly from the staff? They may be vague?
No.
Okay.
What? What?
I wasn't sure.
Okay, define what you mean though.
Out lies. I mean, I know we're going to hear it throughout the community.
If you send a letter to an NPC, the
Yes, they can
NPCs
lie.
are capable of lying just like everyone else.
An NPC.
Well, the NPCs are also capable of being wrong.
That's true, Karen. Remember.
Except for the prince.
NPC, yes, of
Oh,
course.
okay.
I'm more talking about downtimes.
You're thinking of lore, right? Okay, now with lore, let's get into that real quick. Imagine that
I wonder why you thought I thought that.
the lore Okay. First of all, we have to remember lore isn't history. Lore is like fairy tales written by fairy tale creatures.
Like playing telephone
So
through
they
history.
take it more seriously.
Oh.
However, that lore can be incomplete. It could be misleading. It probably won't be like a lie. So, for example,
But maybe
like
embellished.
a lore that says the pool table man like doesn't exist, but there is a pool table man, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. But lore can be misleading. You shouldn't treat it like a historical document.
Misleading
Is
is.
If you use Bruja lore to learn Theobald's favorite color, you're gonna find out it's likely red.
Oh, you know what? A great way to think of it? Think of lore the way you think of in real life gossip. I heard a story about Victoria, right? Whether you believe that story or not is really dependent on what you think about Victoria. Like if it's a good story, you believe it, and you don't like Victoria, you're like, that's bullshit. Victoria would never save any kittens from that burning building.
And however many times removed, it's likely to be more
Yes,
tainted.
and also the bigger the person is. So when we imagine it's not Victoria, it's like the governor of Nevada. It's like a celebrity in Hollywood.
We need people that are bigger than Victoria.
That's right.
The Archon.
Yeah.
Carry it.
And keep in mind, like, the canon books do the same thing. Like, if you look at the Sedek handbook, they've got the Sedek handbook has 3 contradictory canon stories, and they're all presented as fact.
It's like asubstantial.
That's just the Sedek.
Right.
That's World of Darkness.
Yeah, that is the world of darkness,
Yeah.
exactly. So you have, when you hear a lore thing, you can say like, all right, we don't really get into who writes the lores, but you should think of it as there is this little tiny scrap or something you found in your collection of vampiric related documents. That scrap talks about the Pale King or Crooked Man or whatever. And then the author, the point of view comes into play. What the Pale King could be known as comes into play because everybody has secrets. But yeah, lore is not, you shouldn't think of it as you did academics, you have history, you want to know where the Battle of Iwo Jima was.
Lore is not science.
Exactly right.
That's why you have dots in science.
That's why you get science. We're talking to the scientist guy.
But we can't have
Scientists for hire.
occult science.
That's right, you cannot have occult science. It's not a science. Any other questions? Victoria.
I've had a hard time trying to resolve this in my head. We have havens through some manner of getting havens.
Yes.
Even though it's funny, some of us have like 5 dots of haven and we just came here.
Yes.
How is our havens not safe to feed in, but we have security and we have like, if we have a lot of adults and everything.
Let's start with the meta.
Yeah.
The meta is our LARPification of the V5 concept of blood being more important, as well as creating levels of politics separate from praxis, necessitates we create domains. Domains' value is they feed vampires. Your havens, in some ways, we're stealing your agency as characters. We're saying you wouldn't risk your haven. So your haven's so important, you aren't going to bring your herd there because your herd can be compromised by the Second Inquisition easier than you guys.
Or blown up.
You know, so imagine that somebody's tracking these things, somebody intercepts a phone call to your herd, they know your herd's coming, they have the reverse engine on the number, they track the herd to your haven, they shoot a missile in your haven. So in some sense, it's both with domain and havens, we're saying, okay, your characters take precautions. And security, anonymity, is what's rare in this world. Not blood, never blood. Let's bomb. You guys splatter it all over the walls if you want. But hiding it, that's a different story. It's a secret.
So can we reconfigure, based on what you just said, can we reconfigure how we constructed our havens then? If we constructed our havens with the idea that our herd is there.
I'm super chill for the first 3 months of play. I'm like, really. So if you want to remix your haven a bit, fine with me.
All right, I'm changing the haven dot.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I did not. I had misunderstood the itineration rules, and so I had to do like a pretty solid respect.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, actually.
Okay.
Is domains starter ground control, or can players make domains? Keep domains?
Right now, we're keeping them storyteller control. We might allow the creation of player domains in the future. Right now, we're just introducing them. Once we're kind of more out of the picture, we might do other things. But they're always going to be very limited in that way because obviously players will be like, I want to be able to feed 12 people. I want to do it on the strip. I'll be like, nah, sorry, guy. But there might be places. Well, there might be places that become available through play, and we're kind of thinking. We want to see how it all shakes out with what we have now before we think about that. Any other questions?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Now that we've kind of been in the area for a while, can we get a map of what we conceive the boundaries of like Anarch territory, Sabbat territory, and what is considered our domain?
I can give you a map of the domain, and I can let you augment the map of what you believe are Anarch. Or Sabbat.
Yeah.
Or Second Inquisition, or Crooked Man territory, or Albrecht.
Who wants to help with that?
There you go. Wait, we had someone take cartography as like a skill, so.
I don't have it in game, but as a
I will pay a boon to Toreador or somebody with craft to help me with
There
that.
we go.
real company members.
Do you have any other questions? Yes. All right.
Oh,
yes.
Remember, if we want to do something that we think is going to require a scene, how do we book that?
Like that game?
Yeah. Because there's a limited amount of time in game.
Well, I would say that just let me know well enough in advance. I just put you on a list. A good list. Not a bad list.
I mean, I guess it depends on the scene.
Question. When the Justicarian decides to do something, when the Justicarian decides to do something egregious, aka the shit they did last game, and how is it only by letter that they communicate with neighboring domains or the other Justicarian members? Like obviously we have the Archon Surveyor here. Would they have communicated outside of the letter to them to let them know what's going on because of collateral damage? Or is that not something?
That's a good question.
2 writers to the east.
That's a great question. So the question is, did the Archon receive a letter? Right?
Would he tell us if he did?
Well, we know that there was a letter read,
Yes.
but does that how do we connect with them to make sure the flow of information? And is it possible that I can talk shit to the Justicarian and say you didn't warn us and that left us in a big problem?
Of course.
That would be like Mighty Max.
I have answer. So the Herald, you can write in a ridiculous amount of letters to other domains and make the Heralds take them all. Hi Mario! We're best friends!
So
I bought my own
you
wax
can do
sealing
those
kit,
letters.
I'm writing a lot of letters.
You can do those letters as part of your a downtime, and you can send that letter to the Justicar. And in terms of like the meta, we think of that you gave a letter to the Herald and he took it on. When that letter gets back is indeterminate, but that isn't the only way the Justicars can contact you. They can also send someone. You can have face to face. So imagine you're a Tremere Elder, and you say, I would like to pay a major boon for a representative of the Archon to be sent, or of the Justicar of the Tremere to be sent. And the Tremere can send an Archon or a Survivor or anything else to talk to you about whatever that issue is. Now, one of the cool things about V5 is this kind of like ancient or medieval letter sending thing. The domain is cut off in a lot of ways from the greater world of darkness, especially us as this weirdo vanished city. So it's like, there's kind of like a Chernobyl patina around the place. So yeah, but letters are the main way you communicate. Or, if you want a scene, you want to risk the wilds of outside of the city, you can try and find the Justicar yourself in downtime. You run the scene, it is dangerous. There is potential for PC death doing that, but it is possible. If it gets urgent enough, that is.
Make sure you tip your Herald.
Tip your Herald.
With a boon.
Or tip Mario in actual cash.
Or kissing Graham.
Do we have any other questions? All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming to the Influence Lab. I appreciate it.
Thanks for doing this.
Well, it's all Neil. Neil did all the work.
Neil was tired of getting.
As a noob, this was really helpful.
Oh, cool. That's great. We're going to do more of them, so different facets of the game.
I got privilege of level 4 cards. That's what you gave me last game.
Okay.
I would love to know about combat.
For 2 deputies.
Yes.
And I wasn't supposed to get privilege, was I?
You're supposed to get
Oh, okay.
privilege and
I'm
Privilege
missing
you get
what?
from being an insult.
I'm missing, well.
no, you're supposed to get defender cards.
Yeah.
You get the infernal
So I need to
card.
give you the, okay, so I need to give you the privilege back, and I
Are
need
you an
to.
insult?
Use the privilege?
No, you gave it to me, I have a
You're
card.
supposed to have it.
Every insult gets privilege.
No, every insult gets confirmed.
Oh, you're right, you're right.
Privilege and enforcer punishment.
And then I need the,
Privilege lets you call people liars without the sanction of.
Privilege lets you not be called a liar.
okay, so
No,
I need to
it
get.
says if
the
you have that
back.
card,
Then I need
it's
to
like
get the
people
two.
with authority, commander, and people with privilege.
You can also call an elder a liar with privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, ooh.
I did not get that card for being an insult.
I will give it to you next game.
I would like to request that we try to do these at least once a month. Just a out of game social gathering for people to get together and interact as players.
I think it's
that are
definitely
not all
something
horrible
we
zombie
can-
monsters.
We can do. We need to maybe do like a little bit of a group scattering to find great places. Like, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. Right now, setting more because this place killed the room.
Yes.
Yeah. The room was glorious. Yeah. There were chairs and tables. It was magnificent. Those days are past. Yeah, long, long ago. So we need to find like places kind of like maybe do a search.
I'm friends with the guy who owns Huddle.
What is Huddle?
It's a brewery down on Main Street.
Sounds perfect.
It's my favorite.
It's a brewery on Main Street. I'm friends with Skip.
Where's Main
Huddle's
Street?
amazing. It's my
Yeah,
favorite.
downtown.
Mine too.
It's the only place I can drink beer.
We play trivia there every Wednesday.
Like literally.
By Fremont Street.
Yeah, it's a great place. The Ball and Eagle, the new Ball and Eagle beer. I designed the logo.